Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Overwatch League Season 2 Power Rankings. This is part 2 of my mid-season Power Rankings. If you did not catch part 1, it is linked in the description as well as in the cards. You can click on it in either of those two locations. But I want to reiterate a couple things that I said before that one. The first of which is that this is being recorded before Stage 2 playoffs. So I have not seen stage playoffs when I'm recording this. Obviously, it has already happened when I'm putting this up. So you will know who has won. But me recording this video has no idea what has happened. I haven't even seen it yet. It hasn't even happened yet. I know who's in it, but I don't know what's happened. So the second thing I want to say is that I'm going to avoid talking about stage 2 playoffs. And for the most part, I'm going to try to avoid talking about stage 1 playoffs. I want to focus primarily on regular season matches only, the 14 regular season matches that every team has played. That is the only way to talk about an equal footing for all of the teams. And that's just my thoughts on all that. So, with those ground rules and those things out of the way, let's resume this part. We'll do a quick little show here of the parts 20 through 11 in case you wanted to just see them and not listen to my reasonings for putting the teams where I put them. You can see those right there. But let's jump into my number 10 team. And at number 10, I have the Seoul Dynasty. Now, the Seoul Dynasty are a very interesting team. They've been struggling a little bit recently. Stage 1, they were 4-3 plus 5. In Stage 2, they were 3-4, 0 differential, which puts their overall record at 7-7 plus 5. They did make Stage 1 playoffs, but they've been really weird with their roster. They basically have two rosters that they have been kind of differentiating between. There's a couple things that are consistent, such as Michelle, who's been relatively consistent, and Ryu Jaehong, who's the main thing that is consistent between their two rosters. We haven't seen Fisher and Fleta in a while. We haven't seen Jexa in a while. It's a very weird thing that's been going on with this team. I don't really know how to gauge what this team is doing right now. I'm kind of confused and concerned about what this team is doing right now. And obviously, as of Stage 2 playoffs, they are not competing. So, you don't make a stage playoff when you had a chance to, where they realistically, I think, should have. I thought they were the better team than the Hangzhou Spark, but maybe I was wrong about that. But in general, I think you look at what has happened here with the Seoul Dynasty. They're a team that's in a bit of a weird place right now, and I think they need to figure out their roster, figure out who they want to play going forward, because I think you can't keep this roster the way it is right now when you have these really split, weird things going on. Either trade some players or pick a roster that works better, because right now I'm very confused by what the Seoul Dynasty have been doing. But that is it for my number 10. Let's move on to number 9, which is the Hangzhou Spark. Their Stage 1 record was 3-4 minus 4. Their Stage 2 record 5-2 minus 1 to give them an 8-6 minus 5 overall record. They have qualified for the Stage 2 playoffs. This is a team that has been getting a lot better. This is a team that had a lot of high praise going into the Overwatch League this season, being their first season as well, so just going into the Overwatch League in general. They couldn't quite get things going in Stage 1, but in Stage 2, of course, we saw a lot more Crystal, who has looked incredible, and we've seen a lot more Gushue. I think he played every single game. I don't think No Smite played a single map in Stage 2. I could be wrong, but I don't think he played a single map. And obviously we have these issues with Gushue and Crystal being Chinese players on a primarily Korean roster. But it seems that those issues have started to go away as we've seen more and more Crystal and Gushue every single week. So this is a team that is getting a lot better, significantly better every single week. And I'm excited to see what is next with the Spark. I'm excited to see kind of how they go into Stage 3 after the All-Star break. They still have some games against some really good opponents going forward. But they've also they've looked much improved since the start of the season, and I think that deserves some recognition. So that's why I have them at number 9. Number 8, I have the Philadelphia Fusion. Stage 1 record of 5-2 plus 5, a stage 2 record of 3-4 minus 3, with an overall 8-6 plus 2 record. Ultimately, I think this team's struggles came down to a very tough stage. They had to play New York twice, and they lost both of those games. Now, obviously, you could use that point against them because Atlanta had to play New York twice in one stage and beat them both times, but it is what it is. New York is still a very good team. And up until that point, New York hadn't lost any games. So you gotta beat the teams in front of you. Philadelphia Fusion, 3-4 is not bad. -3 differential, not bad either. To be quite honest with you, if you have a losing record overall or for a stage, but -3, not too bad. +5 on a 5-2 stage isn't great. They have losses to Florida, or a loss to Florida. They made stage 1 playoffs. They're a team that I think is good. They have a lot of highs. They're a team that when they hit their high, they're very hard to beat, but they don't hit their high all that often. I'm still very much a believer in the Philadelphia Fusion. I think they've looked pretty good. I think that they're still a team that I have no real concern about whether or not they can compete at a high level, or whether or not they can, make a run for a title. I still think they can because we've seen them do it once. And I think this roster is a little bit better now than it was, even though it's the same roster. It's something that works a little bit better. I think they need to get out of the GOATS meta, personally. It's the kind of meta that just doesn't work for them because they are much more DPS oriented as a team, but they have to run GOATS because it's the main meta. To me, there's not a lot of weird things going on with this team. I just think that they are not in the best meta for them, but they had such a good stage 1 that somewhat bad stage 2 doesn't completely ruin their chance at success in the future. So that's my number 8. Let's move on to number 7, where I have the Shanghai Dragons. An interesting one for a team that is currently sitting at 7-7 -4. Their stage 1 record was 3-4 -4, and their stage 2 record was 4-3 0. This is a team that made stage 2 playoffs and has looked so much better in stage 2. They were a very good team in stage 2. They played New York and they played San Francisco, and they didn't win a map in either of those games. They drew a map against New York. They had -7 differential just in those 2 games alone. And they played well against both of them. They played very well against San Francisco. I think that was Shanghai's best game so far of the season. I thought they played well against New York as well. And their other loss, I cannot remember who it was. It might have been Vancouver. I don't think it was Vancouver, but it might have been Vancouver. I'll double check here in a second. But I really like what they've been doing. They are the team that I think has done the best with having a more DPS-oriented roster. They run that somber GOATS, and I think they run it very well. The Gladiators. They also the Gladiators. They also the Gladiators, the Shock, and the NYXL. They lost to 3 very good teams, and they played very well against, I'd say, all 3 of them, much like the Shock did in the stage 1. And I think we could see a very similar team in the Shanghai Dragons. I don't think they're that level yet of good, but the Shanghai Dragons have looked very good. They lost to 3 very strong teams. I think their play has gotten a lot better, and I really like the type of style that they run. I'm in love with the Shanghai Dragons and the way they play. I think they're very, very good. They are not the same Shanghai Dragons that started out the Overwatch League 0-42. Of course, I'm including the 2 losses that they started out with this season. They're a much better team. I think Gamsu has been incredible for this team. I think Ding has been amazing. Diem has been very good as well. Koma and Luffy are both good. They're not super flashy, but they're just solid players. They get their jobs done. This is a Shanghai Dragons roster that I really, really, really think is capable of getting higher than number 7. I'm very impressed with them right now, but I need to see a little bit more from them before I put them any higher. Next, at number 6, I have the Dallas Fuel. Stage 1 record of 4-3 with 0 differential, and a Stage 2 record of 5-2 plus 5 puts them at 9-5 overall with a plus 5 differential. This is a team that's in the Stage 2 playoffs. They gained Note with a trade from Boston Uprising, who has been a much better diva player for them than what they had. My one thing with this team is I think they're very inconsistent. Again, they beat teams they should, they lose to teams they probably shouldn't lose to. They've gotten smacked when they've played against teams from the top and teams that are in kind of that middle tier. They got smacked by Seoul Dynasty, who they had also beaten 3-1 in Stage 1. They got completely obliterated by the Vancouver Titans. The Dallas Fuel are a very weird team. They're a very interesting team to watch, but I think they're improving significantly week in and week out. I think they really, really, really showed out during the Dallas homestand. They got 2 big wins. Granted, the 2 teams they played weren't the best. They played the Valiant and the Outlaws, and they struggled a little bit against the Outlaws on a couple instances, but they got the wins where the wins mattered most. But overall, I think the Dallas Fuel look a lot better, and I think that OG has been the main key to that. I think he's been able to play a lot better with Note in that diva role, and I think that his better play has just opened up the Dallas Fuel. So out of the number 6 for right now, I could see them moving up. I could see them moving down, but I think right now they're on an upward trajectory, and I don't expect them to drop any further anytime soon. Number 5, I have the London Spitfire. Stage 1 record of 3-4 minus 4. Stage 2 record of 6-1 plus 16. Giving them an overall record of 9-5 plus 12. They were the Stage 2 Atlantic Division champions and qualified for Stage 2 playoffs as a result. London Spitfire, their Stage 1 was clearly a fluke. They almost made Stage playoffs anyway. They were basically 1 win away. If they beat Seoul Dynasty, they were in, pretty much. I believe, actually, if they won, they were in. And their Stage 2 record, 6-1 plus 16. A very solid record, very respectable record for this team. A team that I think you can't sleep on. This is a team that won the Season 1 Grand Finals. This is the Season 1 champion. They were the best Atlantic team in Stage 2 here. Obviously, they didn't play every team. They didn't play, New York, who was the only other team that really was in the running for that. But they won the games they needed to win. They lost 1 game. It was to the Chengdu Hunters, who are just a very weird team to prepare for, a very weird team to play against, hard team to prepare against. It's the kind of game that I think any team could lose to the Chengdu Hunters, and realistically, you'd be like, yeah, that's just the Chengdu Hunters. They're not a great team. They just kind of get wins every so often just because some teams are just not ready for it because you just can't physically be ready for it. But I think the London Spitfire have looked a lot better recently, especially. I think Birdring on that Brigitte role with Prophet on the Zarya has, I don't know why they didn't do that from the beginning of the season. I did like watching Guard play in Stage 1. I thought he was fun to watch, but they've looked a lot better. Obviously, since then, Gesture, I think, has gotten more into what he likes to play. He doesn't play as much Reinhardt, or doesn't have to play as much Reinhardt now, and I think that helps him out a lot. But I think the London Spitfire overall is just a much improved team from Stage 1 to Stage 2. We've seen what they can do, obviously, when people don't believe in them, when people sleep on them. All of the Season 1 playoffs was them basically being underdogs and sleepers and then coming through and winning the whole thing. So the London Spitfire are in a very good position right now. I think they look very strong as a team, and I expect them to get a lot better. Never count them out. Top 5, borderline for that 4 spot as well, but there's still a couple questions I have about their consistency, and the fact that they are a team that really does suffer from very high highs and very bad lows at times. That's really what's holding them back from being any higher than where they are now. Let's move on to number 4, in which I have the Los Angeles Gladiators. Oh, Gladiators. Oh, Gladiators. 3-4 stage 1 with a +1 differential to a 6-1 stage 2 with a +10 differential, meaning they have an overall differential of 9-5 +11. Very respectable stage 2. +10 differentials, surprising for a team that only lost one game. You'd expect something a little bit higher. But they qualified for stage 2 playoffs, which is, of course, an achievement in and of itself. They're a team that have looked a lot better ever since Decay has been able to play. I think Roar has been a pretty solid main tank. I think he's looked good. I don't think he's looked incredible, but I think he's looked good. And I think that this roster has really just gotten better and better between the two stages. And I think that a nice long All-Star break will be very beneficial for this team that has just looked like they've improved significantly since the start of the season. Now they look like they're getting into that kind of mid-season into late season form, and they could definitely challenge some of those top teams in the league. And especially with the way things have gone recently, they even look like they're blurring the lines between the top of the league and or the top giants and some of the other teams that are right below them. So I like what the Gladiators have done. I'm interested to see what happens with them if the meta shifts a little bit more DPS oriented. Do we see more times where Surefour comes in instead of Void? Who knows? But I think the Gladiators have been a much better team this stage, especially stage 2. And number 4, I think, is a very reasonable spot for them, especially when I still think you have kind of the top 3 and then everybody else. But I think the gap between 3 and 4 is a lot smaller now than what it was before. But let's move on to that number 3 squad, which is the New York Excelsior. Stage 1 record of 7-0 +16. Stage 2 record of 5-2 +14 for an overall 12-2 +30 record. Those differentials are actually very telling. Up until match 5 of stage 2, they hadn't lost a single map. They drew once, but they hadn't lost a single map. They lost one against Philadelphia before losing the 2 games to the Atlanta Reign. So they had a very good stage 2 up until their 2 losses. Their differential at +14, being only 2 lower than their stage 1 differential, and having 2 losses is something to note. Something that I think is getting kind of ignored because New York lost games, right? And that's always the story when New York loses a game. But they were the Atlantic Division champions in stage 1. They're one of 3 teams to qualify for both stage 1 and stage 2 playoffs. They have the 2018 MVP Jay Jonak behind them, who was also the World Cup MVP. I think they have some things they need to change, some things they need to work on. Nene has been one of the major problem areas as of late, as has Mono, who has been picked on a lot and singled out and targeted a lot. I think they need to make a couple of changes in the way that they approach things. Obviously, I am a big New York Excelsior fan. If you have been around, you would know this. So I have my own kind of biases towards this, but I think number 3 is genuinely where they are right now. I think that they have still shown how good they are as a dominant top-tier team. But right now, there's a team that has figured out something about them, and they need to figure out how to improve upon what has been going on to figure out what they need to change. Because right now, New York are looking like they're on a bit of a skid, and they need to kind of grab themselves by the shirt collar and just relax and figure out how to improve going forward. Next is my number 2 squad, in which I have the San Francisco Shock. Stage 1 record of 4-3 +5, with those 3 losses coming at the hands of the New York Excelsior, the Vancouver Titans, and the LA Gladiators. 3 very solid teams. And the Stage 2 record of 7-0 +28. A flawless stage, not losing a single map for an overall record of 11-3 plus 33. That perfect Stage 2 gave them the Pacific Division Championship for Stage 2. And, of course, Stage 1 and Stage 2 playoffs for this team. This team's crazy. This team's absolutely insane. Sinatra and Super are ungodly players. Rascal can play literally anything that you ask him to play, and it's insane. This team is very, very good. This team is absolutely incredible. Putting this team at number 2 is very, very difficult because, like, I almost wanted to put them at number 1, but I obviously have reasons why I didn't put them at number 1. Those 3 losses being some of those reasons, because they haven't beaten some of the teams ahead of them. Though they have come close, they have never done it. So I think this is a team that really, really, really impressed me. Obviously, like I said, I haven't watched Stage 2 playoffs when I'm recording this, but I did predict the Shock to win the Stage 2 playoffs, so I really do believe in the Shock as a team, but purely from the fact that I have no idea what happened in Stage 2 playoffs, and because of the just ridiculous stuff that we've seen from our number 1 team here, I have to put the Shock here at number 2. But I have been very impressed with them as of late. I think they look like potentially the best team in the league. We just need to see them take that mantle from the team that I currently believe is the best team in the league. Which leaves us with one final team. That is our number 1 team, the Vancouver Titans. 7-0 Stage 1, plus 18 differential. 7-0 Stage 2, plus 22 differential, for an overall 14-0, plus 40 record. Stage 1 Pacific Division champions. Spots in the Stage 1 and Stage 2 playoffs. This is a team that realistically hasn't lost a game going back to July of last year when they were runaway in contenders. They are on an insane insane match win streak. The Vancouver Titans are potentially the best team we've ever seen in the Overwatch League. Granted, it's only the 2nd season, so that kind of argument is what it is. It's kind of a whatever argument, but the Vancouver Titans are an insane team. You cannot, in my opinion, pick against them right now as the number 1 team in the league, regardless of Stage 2 playoffs results. I don't know what happened, of course, but you just can't pick against them right now. They're an insane team. They're a force to be reckoned with. They're a force of nature, if you will, and I'm absolutely a huge fan of the Vancouver Titans at number 1 hype train. I would love to see the Vancouver Titans get knocked down a couple pegs, make the season a little bit more interesting, because they are just not a fun team to watch, in my opinion, because there is no fair when you have to play the Vancouver Titans. But realistically, there's no one that can really be put in this spot other than them. But that is it for my power rankings. Here you can see the full 20, in my opinion, the way I have them. But if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing, as it helps out a bunch. Let me know down below your thoughts on my power ranking, or power rankings. I'd love to have a discussion about it. I had some great ones with the preseason ones, so I'd love to see what you have to say now. But I am going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.